Hey guys, so my buddy Isaac and I were recently inspired to do something akin to a podcast after he said he had a story he wanted to tell me about the origin of the L96A1 and its manufacturer. This also draws heavy inspiration from The Dollop, which is an American history podcast run by two comedians which are awesome. They can get pretty raunchy, but I will have their link down in the description if you're interested in that. And I suppose, after all that, I'll leave you to enjoy.
Okay, so I finally get to tell you the story of this gun. I have been waiting to tell you for a minute because I love this story. I didn't know the story until pretty recently. And I was like, what? No way, that's awesome. Because it was like broken down and really simplified to where it really didn't sound real. But yeah, I'll give you the longer version of it.
Yeah. Now you've done the research.
Yeah, I have done a little bit. I didn't dig too horribly deep. A lot of like surface level links, nothing crazy. But all right. So I know I want to tell you about this rifle, but we're gonna start with the beginning of the company. And, well, even before that, honestly. Because I think that all the way up until probably 2000-ish, I think is really, really interesting. So we're going to start in the 1970s.
Oh, okay.
I didn't dig too deep, so I didn't get an exact year, but we're going to start in 1970s.
Gotcha.
So we have a competitive shooter, Dave Walls. So he sees a picture of these old Colt 1860 revolvers, which I have a picture of for you.
Okay.
And this picture is just taken off of their site. So he sees a picture of these old single action revolvers, right?
Gotcha.
And he's like, well, you know what? You know what would be fun? I wonder if I can just make exact copies of these with the machines that I have at work. So he has no blueprints. It's just him and then his coworker, also named Dave. So Dave Walls and
and Dave No Name.
And Dave, I'm not sure how to say this. Here.
Okay.
Let me see if there's just like a video that pronounces it for me. Okay, everybody says it all links to Craig, but I don't think it's Craig because there's no R.
Okay. Alright.
So I'll call him Caig. The second Dave is Scottish, and I don't know how pronunciation works, if it's different, but I'm going to call him Caig for
I've seen some weird like Celtic pronunciations before, but I don't think I've seen like missing R's.
Because it has to either be Caig or Sag, right?
Yeah, that would be or like a shag or something to that effect.
So let's call him Caig. So no blueprints. They just looked at some pictures. There's two Daves, Dave Walls, Dave Caig. They're both actually shooters.
So this is like
they're co-workers.
This is like 3D printing from 40 years ago.
Yeah, 3D printing with metal. So they have no blueprints, and they just start like drawing, like making designs of the revolvers just by looking at pictures of them from like books. And then like on top of the pictures, like the most they've ever gotten was they actually got to see the guns at a local auction. They didn't let them like touch them or disassemble them, which they wanted to do. So they only ever saw like the outside for a really, really long time. And then like one day they got lucky and found the inside, like a picture of the inside of the guns, and boom, they were able to just make the guns.
Dang.
So just using pictures, they recreate these two guns. So they finish the guns. They take these revolvers that they made, and they go to this auction, this gun auction. And they go up, and there's this expert. I didn't get a name. There's an expert on old Colt revolvers there. And they give them to him. They're like, hey, can you check out these guns?
Can you check out these guns, Colt
old...
revolver man?
Yeah, they're like, here, can you check out these old Colt revolvers? And the expert is like, I mean, these are really good. These are really good, pair of Colt revolvers. There's only one thing wrong with them. There's like this notch on one side that's not on the other, so you can't mount a shoulder stock on it. So like everything down to one little notch was great.
They almost had it perfectly.
Like, they almost had it perfect, and then they're like, oh, by the way, we made those.
So you just told him?
Yeah, so like they didn't tell him that they made them at first. They just gave them to the guy. Yeah. They were like, check these out. Check out these bad boys.
Hey, can you give us a little appraisal on these Colt revolvers?
Right.
By the way, they're actually Dave revolvers.
Dave revolvers. So they're like, all right, they're not actually Colt. We made them in a group, in our little workshop.
Dave, like, a name you can trust.
Right. So they're like, wow, that's really impressive. You built these guns from a picture. You guys should go ahead and just make guns.
Dave and Dave.
Because it was that easy to just do that, I guess.
Dave and Dave could also be like a law firm.
True. A law firm. Like a baby lotion brand.
If there was like instead of Johnson & Johnson.
Instead of Johnson & Johnson.
That's the great value version.
Okay.
If only there was a third Dave.
Well.
Whoa, wait. Please tell me.
I don't want to get your hopes up. His name isn't Dave.
Aw, dang it. I was hoping for Dave, and Dave.
Right? Getting two of them together is crazy enough. Let alone 3 Daves. So both Daves, they were shooters and they were part of the same rifle club. So it's not like they aren't proficient with rifles. And in fact, both of them actually competed in international tournaments for their country. Walls is English and Keg is Scottish.
So they're
both.
For clarification, so they are shooters, but it's as a hobby, and they are not professional shooters.
Yes.
So they just both work at the same manufacturing company.
Yeah, like Walls had a job, and then he was also part of a shooting club.
So was Keg a professional shooter then?
Keg also had a job. So they both had jobs, and on the side, they were shooters.
Okay.
They were both part of the same club, and so they would shoot in the club, and they were the ones responsible for doing all the maintenance on the rifles and pistols in the club. So they maintained all the weapons, so that they would be ready to be used in competition.
Okay, wait. So are they just going around copying everyone's guns?
They're not like scanning everyone's gun. Not quite. They're like, they made the one gun so far, and they just happen to also be performing maintenance. And eventually, they've turned maintaining the weapons into a business. They called it C&W Products. And it was all of the work was done in a shed at Dave Walls' home in Worthing, Sussex. And so how you asked, did they have a job right here? They actually ended up making so much money from just repairing weapons that Dave and I just found this part about Dave. I don't know about Keg, but I'd assume maybe both of them together since they both had the company. But they were making enough money from repairing these that they put in their month's notice and they quit.
I like how you're
referring. Job.
You're referring to Walls as Dave, and then you're referring to Dave Keg as Keg. Even though they're both Dave.
So, they put in their
Alpha
notice,
Dave and Beta Dave.
They were like working on like grinder machines, and they put in the notice, and the boss is like, "You guys will never be anything more than a small time gun maker."
Well, what do you know? That's what they wanted to be.
What do you know?
You guys will only live up to your dreams.
Yeah, for real. You guys are good at what you do. So basically that, except not small time.
Yeah.
Okay, so eventually they got bored with just repairing rifles, and they said, you know what? Let's just make one. Let's just design a rifle.
I guess they've been working with them enough.
Let me send you a picture of the two Daves real quick.
Okay.
Because I wanted to send this when I mentioned them, but I forgot. So that the one in the front is Walls, and the one in the back is Keg.
Okay. He kind of looks like a keg.
What if I told you that's not them? That's actually Escobar.
Is that actually?
That's Pablo Escobar. These are the Kegs. These are the Daves. That's Walls and Keg. These are the Daves.
Oh my gosh. I wasn't ready for that. Okay. He kind of looks like Pablo Escobar.
I know, right?
Okay, so
I saw that and I was like, wow, he really looks like a drug lord.
So the one on the left is Walls, right?
Let me make sure, because I have a picture with. So yeah, the tall one is Walls, the one on the left.
Okay, glad we got that cleared up.
Around the same time that they made their own little business, right? They started to design rifles. They actually met Malcolm Cooper. Malcolm Cooper ended up being a world champion, like 2-time Olympic champion, or what is it, gold medal, like target shooter. So he's nothing small. And I have a picture of those three together here.
You just send me a picture of like Al Pacino.
So left to right, there's Cooper,
Malcolm Cooper, Walls, and then Keg.
Okay. Yes. So if the Daves they're talking with Cooper, they're hitting it up, and eventually they show Cooper. They're like, "Hey, look, we made these guns, these 2 pistols. Pretty cool, huh?" And Cooper is like really impressed. He's super impressed by it, and he's like, "You guys, I think that you guys have the skill here to just make some rifles, since that's what you guys are around all the time." Their reply was, "We've already done that."
So I had something. So the picture. So the first picture you sent, that's in color, right? Circa 1981.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it just me, or do they look older in the second photo, yet that one is in black and white?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, glad we got that cleared up.
Let me see if there wasn't a date on that one. And it's off of their website, Accuracy International website. But there's no date on it like the other one, so guess I'll die.
So they were like, "We're already making rifles."
Yeah, he's like, "You guys should make rifles," and I'm like, "We already made one." Your next line's gonna be that we should make rifles. Okay, so
okay, that was good. I almost spit out my water.
So like, yeah, we already made a rifle, and he's like, "Oh, really? Well, can I just use your rifle in the world championship that's coming up.
What? He hasn't even seen the rifle yet.
So it's like 1978, the 1978 World Championship in Seoul, Korea.
Okay.
He uses a Craig and Wall's rifle, and he gets a silver medal. Just two random dudes made a gun, and he pulled a silver medal with it.
Nice.
So later in 1978, the three of them all get together, and they establish Accuracy International, which they named after Malcolm Cooper's gun shop, Accuracy International Shooting Sports. So now we have the company. So they're repairing rifles still to make ends meet, but they really quickly shifted over to just designing guns. So in 1981, they'll build their third prototype rifle, which is the first one that shares a lot of the modern features of Accuracy International guns today.
Okay.
So this is the first like modern rifle. And this should be the picture of that one. Here's one picture of it, and then here's another. That one's off of their website, the second one.
So that's Rifle 2 Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah, so that first picture is, I believe, really close to the third prototype, and then the second picture is a further refined product.
Okay.
And that is their third prototype. Is the Accuracy International Precision Marksman. So I'm gonna just call it PM for now.
Gotcha.
So when I said this is the first modern rifle, I say that because back then a lot of the sniper rifles, quote unquote sniper rifles, were just hunting rifles. They were just customized hunting rifles. They weren't made specifically for the purpose of, filling that sniping role.
Yeah.
But the Precision Marksman was. So they specifically wanted to make a sniper rifle built for the role.
This one? You could really hit some people with this gun.
You hit people from real far away. Real far away.
You know how you hit animals with this gun? This one's for people.
This one's for people. At twice the distance. Knock yourselves out. And eventually they get to actually sell this rifle to British forces. So there's two groups that started using the rifle first. And it was the United Kingdom Special Boat Service. They only bought like 8, but that's enough to have been used.
Yep.
And then the United Kingdom Special Air Service.
Ooh.
So altogether, they bought about 40 rifles. That was in 1984.
Okay, wait. What was the first group? The group that said they got 8?
The United Kingdom Special Boat Service.
So the Special Boat Service, the SBS is like, we'll take 8. Then the SAS comes in, we'll take 4 times as many.
We'll take 4 times as many because we're 4 times as good.
The Special Beta Service is nothing to the Special Alpha Service.
So that all took place in 1984, and the British forces that used it, that's where we got the nickname. They called it the Green Meanie. So in addition to those, the next year they ended up getting buyers from the United Kingdom Police Force. They got even Oman in the Arabian Peninsula was buying precision marksman rifles.
Okay.
So they took the precision marksman and they were like, that did really well. Let's design a new gun. So they start designing another rifle. Bear in mind for this rifle, they still don't have any sort of computer-aided design or anything. There's nothing fancy. They're sketching these out on paper with pencil. These rifles.
Okay.
But
they're all still going into the machine with the same design.
Yes.
Okay, so they're still coming out the same. It's not like they're like drawing a slightly different one and all the rifles are like, this is a first edition.
So they sketch out a new design, and the new design ends up being the L96A1, which I believe, unless I'm getting them mixed up, is, unless I totally botched that one. Let me double check and make sure. Okay, yeah. No, I boofed that one.
Oh, okay.
No, so the same gun. I just used the British naming convention for later in place of precision marksman instead of precision marksman. Same gun.
So it is the L96A1, but it wasn't called that yet.
Yeah, it wasn't called that yet.
Okay.
Anyways. They're selling the rifles already, right? And then they hear that there's actually a trial going on to replace the Lee Enfield sniper rifle, the L42A1. And that I have a picture of. This one. That's like a picture of one.
See, now that looks like a modified hunting rifle.
So that's the gun that they want to replace. And the reason that they're wanting to replace that is the British Ministry of Defense, after the 1982 Falklands War, they were like, oh boy, do we need a new sniper rifle. But because the sniper rifle they were using, awful. It just did not perform well at all in the war.
We're not hitting any people with this rifle. We need a gun that's designed to hit people.
Yeah, so what would happen is, because the gun, it's made out of wood, it would get wet, and then the gun would swell up, and it would impair the weapon's accuracy.
I thought you were going to say, since the gun was made out of wood, they pull the trigger and it explodes in their hands. It just splinters.
But so they were like, okay, well, our gun is like choking itself. Let's just call this obsolete and look for a new gun.
Yeah.
And so our boys, the Three Musketeers, are like, you know what? What if we just put our gun in the competition? They didn't expect to win.
We throw our hat in the ring.
Yeah, they were just like, hey, why not? Let's try it. Now, I believe the competition was in 85. So they take their gun, they're like, here you go, use this gun. We're going to enter into the competition. They didn't expect to win at all. And let's see. I have the statistics for it here. When the Ministry of Defense tested the rifle, it got 85% first-time hits on man-sized targets at ranges of 600 to 900 meters, and it was able to deliver harassing fire up to 1100 meters.
Nice.
Those are the results for the test. And basically it won by a landslide. Like, it outdid the other weapons. Like, it wasn't even a competition.
Jeez.
So, not expecting to win, they definitely weren't ready to like win the contract with the military. So 16 rifles. So they have like these rounds. So in the qualification round, 16 rifles made it in. In the next round, it came down to 9 rifles. And in the final round, there were only 3 guns, and they were one of them. And Walls was like, "Oh wow, we might actually win." And they end up winning the competition, and they get contracts to make guns for the British military, basically.
Okay.
And so now they have to make over 1,000 rifles. That's the contract. They need to make. So far they've made like 40-ish.
I was gonna say, haven't they only made like 40 or 50?
And it's just 3 dudes making guns in a garage. Now they need to make 1,000 rifles.
I mean, I feel like if you have a contract like that, at that point you're just getting a loan and getting an actual facility to make your guns.
Funny you say that. They do get a facility. They win the contract, and the Ministry of Defense for the UK is like, all right, well, we're just going to send a couple officers out to check out your facility, and if everything checks out, then you got it. The contract's yours.
So then they're like,
Oh, no. So they want to come. They're going to inspect Accuracy International's factory. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So they go out and they rent a warehouse. They rent this warehouse, and they put a bunch of little workbenches in it, and they set the guns down in like various like stages of weapon design.
They just like, we'll take our work and put it over here.
So they rent this out. I'm pretty sure they rent it out for like a day or 2 tops. So the day that the guys are coming over, it's ready, and they take the officers over to the workshop that they rented. That it's a total facade.
Yeah.
And they're like, they try to go through it as quick as possible. They're like, here's these stages of the weapon. There's those parts of the gun. Everything's working fine. Isn't this a great factory? And they're like, oh yeah, no, this is great. Everything checks out. Do you want to go get lunch? And so they take the officers, they take them out to lunch, and while they're eating, one of the officers says, everything looked great. We aren't really concerned. We just wanted to make sure you weren't just 2 dudes in a shed. So the whole inspection was just a formality. To make sure they weren't just some dudes making guns in the garage.
That they weren't exactly what they were.
And they were exactly that. Just a couple dudes making rifles in their garage.
As soon as he said that, they looked at each other. They were like, yeah, yeah, all those idiots making guns in their garage.
Yeah. Could not be me. Eventually, the gun, that was the first modern sniper rifle. It's really famous now, and since then it's evolved into it's had a lot of iterations, such as the Arctic Warfare Magnum. I think that's the one that is in service right now, or one of the more up-to-date ones. And here's a picture of that I can send.
I didn't realize that there were magnums that weren't pistols. You are awful.
Now, I said that as a joke, but actually, in seriousness, this is modeled after Accuracy International rifles. This is the actual rifle.
Okay. So, you said it was Arctic, right?
Yes.
Why is it brown?
I mean, I'm sure that there are different colors based on region. If Because at least if I were making a camouflage, I would change the color based on the region. So, like, if I had this gun, this variant is what we're using, and then we have to use it in the desert.
This gun is Arctic because it's cool.
I can actually tell you why it's Arctic.
Okay.
So they got their contract and they start making guns for the military. They actually also entered into a competition in the United States, I believe, and they ended up losing that one to Remington.
I mean, I can imagine why.
But other places that they made that their rifles got sent to are like Sweden. Like a later version of the rifle ends up going to Sweden.
Yeah.
But the problem was that it didn't function very well in the cold, I believe. This part is not written. This is off of memory. So it didn't function very well in the cold, and then they made a version that would work there. We would not have the Arctic Warfare.
Okay.
Like series of weapons. One of the things I remember that they attributed to their successful design was that each of the three that were involved in making the gun were different heights. It was like 5'3", 5'8", and 6 foot. So they were like, well, if we make a gun, it's going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
Because we're all different sizes that are making it. And then, like, the features of the gun that stood out was a removable magazine and then, like, the flat bottom design so that you could actually rest it on, like, sandbags and stuff.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the whole thing?
Yeah, that is it so far. I mean, there's more to the company, but that is the part that I found actually interesting. After that, they have... what is it? They have like some money troubles. I think they go bankrupt and then they come back from it. That kind of stuff.
We're not making guns good enough. Hey, we're making guns good enough.
Yeah, I didn't think it was quite as impressive as when they made pistols from pictures and then tricked British officers into believing they were a real factory.
Okay. So, successful company, is it still just the three of them, or do they have, like, have they ramped up their production, things of that nature?
They have ramped up the production. I think the latest thing I saw was, like, there's 2 factories, 70 employees.
Okay.
So, I believe they're still pretty small, but they've expanded both facilities and their market, because now they were selling to United States Special Forces in 2009.
Now we've rented 2 fake factories. Although I love the idea of just like 70 people trying to fit in their garage. But no, that's wild. That's a cool little story of a startup company. Well, I have no clue how I'm going to end this, if I'm going to record an outro later, or what the story is going to be, but I think I'll just stop the recording now.
Okay.